The massive chamber of Nexus 7 space station buzzed with strange sounds from dozens of different alien races. Ambassador Lee Hanna walked slowly to the speaking platform in the center. Her black Earth uniform looked small and plain next to all the colorful aliens sitting around her in a giant circle. The air smelled weird, like metal and chemicals mixed together. Hanna had been on this station for 3 days now, waiting for this moment. Her hands were steady, but her heart was beating fast. This was humanity's first real chance to join the galaxy's most important group. The human request to join the Galactic Council, said the Vrek speaker. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. The scales on his lizard-like face moved, and what Hanna had learned meant he thought something was funny. How cute. Admiral Vorth stood up from his chair. The Vrek's leader was huge, almost 3 meters tall. His green scales caught the strange purple light in the chamber. When he looked down at Hanna, his yellow eyes seemed to glow with mean humor. These soft pink creatures think they can fly among the stars with us, Vorth said loudly. His voice carried easily across the big room. Look at them. No claws, no armor, no real strength. Their little ships are like toys compared to ours. Their weapons could not even scratch our shields. From across the chamber came bubbling laughter. The Netheri delegates floated in their special tanks. They looked like glowing clouds of gas, always changing shape and color. Right now they were bright orange, which meant they found something very funny. The klaxon bugs made their own noise. They were the size of horses, but looked like giant ants. Their hard shells were black and shiny. They clicked their mouth parts together. Click, click, which was how they laughed. The sound echoed off the metal walls. Maybe we should be nice to them, Vorth continued, walking around his chair. Each step made a loud thump on the floor. We could give them special protection. They could be our pets. Or maybe they could dance for us when we get bored. More laughter filled the chamber. The bird-like stellar made high whistling sounds. The rock creatures called granite shifted their heavy bodies and made deep rumbling noises. Even the plant people, called flora, rustled their leaves in amusement. Hanna felt her face getting hot with anger, but she kept her voice calm and steady. Respected council members, humanity might be new to space travel, but we have something very important that you are not seeing. Oh, let me guess, Vorth cut her off, throwing his arms wide. You have heart, you have spirit, you never give up. He made his voice high and silly, copying how humans talked. We have heard all your little stories about never surrendering and fighting to the end. Very sweet, very ... touching. The laughter got even louder. Some aliens were making so much noise that Hanna could barely think. The Vrek's delegation was hissing with joy. The crystal beings were ringing like broken bells. It felt like the whole galaxy was laughing at her, at Earth, at everything humans had worked for. Vorth raised one clawed hand, and the noise slowly stopped. Your request is refused, he said simply. Go back to your little blue planet. If you want our protection from the dangerous things in space, you can send us gifts. Food, metal, maybe some of your art. We might keep you safe, if you ask nicely. The other aliens nodded and made agreeing sounds. To them, this was already decided. Humans were just another weak species that needed to be told what to do. Hanna looked around the chamber one more time. She saw hundreds of different types of aliens, some that looked like animals she knew. Others so strange she could not even understand what she was looking at. All of them were looking at her like she was a child who had asked for something silly. She picked up her papers from the speaking platform and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps seemed very loud in the big chamber. Behind her, the aliens were already talking about other things. They had forgotten about humans already. Just before she reached the door, Hanna stopped and turned around. Her voice was quiet, but in the big chamber, everyone could hear her words clearly. You will be sorry for this decision. But her warning was lost in another wave of alien laughter. They thought it was the funniest thing they had heard all day, a human threatening the mighty Galactic Council. What could these weak little creatures possibly do to races that had ruled the stars for thousands of years? As the door closed behind her, Hannah could still hear them laughing. She walked down the long metal hallway toward her ship, her mind already thinking about the message she would send back to Earth. The aliens thought they knew everything about humans. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The laughter would not last much longer. 3 months had passed since Ambassador Lee Hanna returned from the Galactic Council with bad news. Now the sky above Earth looked different. Where once there had been blue and white clouds, dark shapes now blocked out the sun. Hundreds of alien warships floated in space around the planet like angry metal storm clouds. The biggest ship was Admiral Vorth's flagship. It was so huge that people on the ground could see it without telescopes, a dark line across the sky that was 1 kilometer long. Its hull was covered in weapons that could destroy entire cities. Behind it floated dozens of smaller wreck ships, each one still bigger than anything humans had ever built, in cities around the world. People looked up at the sky with fear. Children asked their parents what the dark shapes were. Old people remembered stories of war and wondered if this was how the world would end. Television news showed the same pictures over and over. Alien ships, sitting in Earth's orbit like vultures waiting for something to die. Then every screen on Earth showed the same thing. Admiral Vorth's scaled face appeared on televisions, computers, phones, and even the big advertising screens in city centers. His yellow eyes seemed to look right through the camera at every person watching. People of Earth, his rough voice said in perfect English. I am Admiral Vorth of the Vrex Empire. Your silly little show at the Galactic Council made us laugh for weeks. We thought you might have learned your place by now, but you seem to need a clearer lesson. He paused, and his mouth opened to show rows of sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. You have exactly 72 hours to give up completely. You will also give us 60% of everything on your planet. Your food, your metals, your oil, your people, if we want them. If you do this, we might let some of you live. The message ended. But the alien ships stayed exactly where they were, watching and waiting, deep under the ground beneath Seoul. South Korea, the most important people on Earth sat around a long metal table. The room had no windows, and thick walls that could survive almost anything. General Park Jin-woo had been in many meetings like this, but never one where the whole planet was in danger. 60%, he shouted, hitting the table so hard that coffee cups jumped. His face was red with anger. They want to take so much that we would all starve. Our children would die. They know this. President Kim Nari sat at the head of the table. She was a small woman, but everyone in the room respected her. She had led Earth through many difficult times, but nothing like this. She looked around at the faces of Earth's best military leaders, generals, admirals, and scientists who had spent their whole lives preparing for war. What can we do? She asked simply. Tell me our choices. General Park stood up and touched a button on the table. The air above them filled with a blue hologram showing the solar system. Little dots of light showed where spaceships were located. Most people on Earth thought their planet only had a few small space stations and research ships. The hologram showed something very different. Project Starfall has been ready for 2 months, Park said. We have 300 warships hidden throughout the outer solar system. They are behind asteroids, inside empty moons, and in the dark space between planets. The aliens think we have nothing. They are wrong. Admiral Choi Minji stepped forward. She was the commander of Earth's secret space navy ships that had been built and hidden. Factories on the dark side of the moon and in asteroid mines where no one could see them. President Kim, these aliens have never fought humans before. They think we will cry and beg and give them whatever they want. They have never met a species that would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Captain Song Hunsik had just returned. from a dangerous mission in the outer solar system. His face was tired, but his eyes were bright with important news. "Ma'am, my scouts report that more alien ships are coming. Not just Verks, many different races. The crystal people, the gas clouds, the bug creatures. They are not coming to fight. They are coming to watch. They want to see the great Vrex Empire destroy the weak humans. It will be like entertainment for them." The room was quiet for a moment. Everyone understood what this meant. The aliens thought this would be easy and fun. They had no idea what was really going to happen. President Kim Nari had made many hard decisions in her life, but this was the hardest. She could surrender and watch her people become slaves, or she could fight and watch them die in a war against impossible odds. But when she looked around the table at these brave men and women, she knew there was really only one choice. "Then we will give them a show they will never forget," she said quietly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were full of fire. "Send the message to all our hidden ships. Operation Prometheus begins now." In space, the alien ships continued to wait. They expected humans to panic and surrender. They had no idea that humanity's real fleet was already moving into position, ready to turn their entertainment into a nightmare. They would remember forever. Captain Yoon So-min stood on the bridge of her warship, the Soul's Pride. Through the big window in front of her, she could see the enemy coming. Hundreds of alien ships moved toward Earth like a dark cloud of metal and death. Her hands were steady on the control panel, but her heart was beating fast. "Captain," said Commander Han Donggu from his station nearby, "the alien fleet is getting closer. What are your orders?" Salman looked at the screen that showed all the ships around them. Human vessels were spread out across space, near Earth, destroyers, cruisers, and fighters that looked tiny compared to the massive alien warships. But this was all part of the plan. "Fire a few shots at their lead ships," she ordered. "Make it look real, but don't hit anything important." The Soul's Pride shook as its main guns fired. Bright blue energy beams shot across space toward the Vrex fleet. The shots hit the shields of the alien ships and made pretty light shows, but did no real damage. It was like throwing rocks at a tank. "Now turn around," So-min said. "Make it look like we are afraid and running away." Her ship spun around and began flying away from the aliens toward the outer part of the solar system. All around them, other human ships were doing the same thing. To anyone watching, it looked like the human fleet was breaking apart in fear. Through the radio came Admiral Vorth's voice, and he was laughing so hard he could barely speak. "Look at them run. The mighty human warriors are running away like scared rabbits. Their ships are so fast when they are afraid." On the bridge of the Soul's Pride, some of the younger crew members looked angry. Commander Han clenched his fists. It was hard to listen to the aliens making fun of them, even when it was part of the plan. But So-min just smiled. Let them laugh. They would not be laughing much longer. Behind the human fleet came the aliens, moving fast to catch up. The Vrex warships were huge and covered in weapons. Their hulls were dark green like Admiral Vorth's scales, and they moved through space like hunting sharks. But the Vrex were not alone. Other alien races had come to watch the show. The Aler ships looked like they were made of crystal and glass. They caught the light from the sun and threw it back in rainbow colors. These crystal beings had positioned their ships where they could see everything that happened. The Nithari were there too, floating in their special ships that looked like bottles holding glowing gas. The gas inside changed colors, now blue, now yellow, now bright green. These were the aliens that looked like living clouds, and they had come to watch the humans die. There were others too, bug-like creatures in black ships that looked like giant insects, rock people in ships that seemed to be made of stone, bird creatures in ships with wings that did not flap, but somehow helped them fly through space. All of them had come to see the great Vrex Empire destroy the weak humans. It would be entertainment, like watching a movie or a sports game. brought food and drinks, and made themselves comfortable. "All human ships, this is command," came General Park Jin-woo's voice over the radio. "Phase 1 is working perfectly. Begin moving toward Mars. Stay in formation, but keep looking scared." Soman nodded to her crew. Mars was the red planet, fourth from the sun. It was much smaller than Earth, and had no air that humans could breathe, but it was perfect for what they needed. "You heard the general," she told her crew. "Keep running toward Mars, and remember, we need to look defeated." "Captain," said Han, "this is hard to watch. The aliens think we are cowards." "Let them think," Dat Soman replied. "The best hunters know that sometimes you have to look weak to catch strong prey." She opened the communications channel to all alien frequencies. This part was the hardest, but it was necessary. "This is Captain Yoon Soman of the human fleet," she said, making her voice sound scared and broken. We cannot fight your powerful ships. We surrender. Please do not destroy us. We will do whatever you want." Through the radio came more alien laughter. Admiral Vorth was so happy he was practically singing. "Yes. Beg more, little humans. Crawl on your bellies, and maybe we will let a few of you live." Some of Soman's crew looked sick. They did not like hearing their captain talk like this, even if it was fake. But Soman caught their eyes, and nodded slightly. "Trust me," her look said. "This will work." The human fleet continued toward Mars, flying slowly like ships that were damaged and tired. Behind them, the aliens followed eagerly. They could smell victory and wanted to catch the humans before they could hide. But the aliens did not know about the ships waiting behind. Mars, Admiral Choi Minji, had been hiding there for weeks with the real human fleet. 300 warships that the galaxy had never seen. Ships built in secret, armed with weapons that no alien had ever faced. The trap was almost ready. Soon the hunters would become the hunted, and the laughter would stop forever. Admiral Choi Minji floated in the command center of her flagship, hidden behind Mars where no alien could see her. Through the thick windows, the red planet looked peaceful and quiet. But Choi knew that in a few minutes, this would become the most important battlefield in human history. She held a small communication device close to her mouth and whispered one word, "Now." Suddenly, the dark space around Mars exploded with light. Hundreds of human warships appeared out of nowhere, like ghosts becoming real. They had been hiding behind asteroids, inside old moon bases, and in the cold darkness between planets. For months, they had waited in complete silence for this moment. The aliens who had come to watch humans die suddenly found themselves surrounded. Admiral Vorth's huge Vrex fleet was in the middle of the trap, with human ships appearing all around, them like angry metal wolves. Captain Yoon Soman felt her heart jump as she saw the hidden fleet appear. Her destroyer, the Soul's Pride, had been pretending to run away, but now she spun her ship around to face the enemy. "All crew, prepare for attack," she shouted. "Today we show these aliens what humans can really do." Her ship's front end opened, up to reveal a special weapon that no alien had ever seen. It was called a plasma cutter, and it could cut through almost anything. The weapon glowed bright white as it charged up. "For Earth," Soman screamed as her ship flew straight at Admiral Vorth's massive flagship. From his command ship, General Park Jin-woo's voice filled the radio waves, reaching every human ship in the battle zone. "All units, you are free to fire. Show them what human resolve looks like. Make them remember this day forever." The space around Mars turned into a storm of light and fire. Human ships that had been built in secret factories now showed what they could really do. Their weapons were different from anything the aliens expected. Captain Lee Jae-won commanded a squadron of fast attack ships. He led them straight at the beautiful crystal ships of the Aylar race. These aliens thought they were safe because their ships looked so pretty and delicate. They were wrong. "Target their central structure," Jae-won ordered. Focus all plasma fire on one point. His ships fired together, their bright beams hitting the crystal ships at the same time. The alien vessels, which had looked like beautiful glass art, cracked and broke apart like windows hit by rocks. Pieces of crystal ship floated away, spinning slowly in the darkness. The gas cloud aliens called Nathari tried to escape by spreading out their ships, thinking they could hide in the darkness of space. But Captain Ominsu had prepared a special surprise for them. His engineering team had worked for months to build gravitational mines weapons that could grab and crush things using the same force that held planets around stars. When the Nathari ships tried to fly away, invisible hands seemed to reach out and grab them. The gas inside their ships was pulled apart and scattered like smoke in a strong wind. The beautiful glowing clouds became nothing more than empty space. Admiral Vorth's kilometer-long flagship tried to turn around and escape, but Captain Summon's destroyer was too fast. The Soul's Pride flew straight at the massive Rex ship like an arrow shot from a bow. "All crew, prepare for impact," Soman shouted to her people. She knew what this would cost them, but she also knew it was necessary. The plasma cutter on the front of her ship cut through the Vrex flagship's shields like they were made of paper. The human destroyer crashed into the alien ship's main reactor, the part that gave it power. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then both ships exploded in a flash of light so bright it could be seen from Earth. The massive Rex flagship broke into pieces, taking Admiral Vorth and thousands of his crew with it. Captain Solman and her brave crew were gone too, but their sacrifice had cut the head off the enemy fleet. Somian Admiral Choi's voice came over the radio, full of sadness and anger. But there was no time to cry for the dead. The battle was still going on. All across the battlefield, human ships fought like nothing the aliens had ever seen. When alien commanders expected humans to run away, they instead flew closer and fought harder. When human ships were damaged and should have surrendered, their crews kept fighting until their ships were completely destroyed. The bug-like Klaxon aliens tried to use their numbers to overwhelm human positions, but human pilots flew their ships in ways that seemed impossible, dodging and weaving between enemy fire while shooting back with deadly accuracy. The rock people called Granite thought their thick armor would protect them, but human engineers had designed special weapons just for them. Bombs that could crack stone and turn solid rock into dust. One by one, the alien fleets that had come to watch humanity die found themselves dying instead. The space around Mars became filled with burning alien ships, floating pieces of metal, and the bright flashes of exploding reactors. The aliens had expected an easy victory and an entertaining show. Instead, they got a lesson in what happened when you made humans angry. The laughter had stopped, replaced by screams of fear and calls for help that no one would answer. The battle was over. Where once there had been hundreds of proud alien warships, now there was only floating metal and fire. Pieces of destroyed ships drifted slowly through space around Mars, spinning like broken toys. Some were still burning, creating trails of light in the darkness. Admiral Choi Mingi stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at what remained of the mighty alien armada that had come to destroy humanity. Her uniform was torn and dirty. There was a cut on her forehead from when her ship had been hit by enemy fire. But she was alive, and Earth was safe. On the big screen in front of her, she could see the few alien ships that were still whole. They were running away as fast as their engines could carry them. Ships that had arrived full of confidence and cruelty were now fleeing like frightened animals. "Admiral," said Communications Officer Bei Jihan from his station nearby. His voice was tired, but excited. "We are getting messages from the enemy ships that are still alive." "What kind of messages?" Choi asked. "The remaining Vrex ships are asking to surrender. They say they will do whatever we want if we promise not to destroy them." Around the bridge, human crew members looked at each other with surprise. Just a few hours ago, These same aliens had been demanding that Earth surrender to them. Now they were begging for mercy. What about the other alien races? Choi asked. Bei looked at his screen and read the messages that were coming in. The Crystal People, the Ailer, they are asking for an immediate ceasefire. They say they want to talk about peace. And the Gas Cloud aliens. The Netheri are offering to pay us tribute. Admiral, they want to give us food and metals and other valuable things if we promise not to attack their home worlds. Choi nodded slowly. The tables had turned completely. The hunters had become the hunted. The strong had become the weak. And the humans that everyone had laughed at were now the ones with all the power. Around her flagship, human ships were working hard to save their own people. Rescue boats flew between the pieces of destroyed human vessels, looking for crew members who might still be alive. Medical ships moved carefully through the debris, picking up wounded soldiers and taking them to safety. Many brave humans had died in the battle. Captain Yoon So-min and her crew on the Soul's Pride were gone forever, destroyed when they crashed into Admiral Vorth's flagship. Hundreds of other pilots and gunners and engineers would never see Earth again, but their sacrifice had saved billions of people back home. Choi walked over to the main communications panel. It was time to send a message that would change everything. She pressed a button that would broadcast her words to every corner of the galaxy, to every alien world, every space station, every ship that could receive radio signals. To all members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice clear and strong. This is Admiral Choi Minji of the Human Defense Force. In her mind, she could picture alien leaders all across the galaxy stopping what they were doing to listen. On hundreds of worlds, in thousands of cities, creatures with scales and crystals and gas forms were hearing her words. Your representatives came to our world 3 days ago, she continued. They demanded that we surrender without fighting. They wanted us to give them most of our food and resources. They mocked our resolve and laughed at our determination to stay free. She paused and looked out the window at the burning remains of the alien fleet. Some of the pieces were still glowing red hot from the explosions. As you can see, we do not surrender easily. Humanity has learned that sometimes the only way to have peace is to fight for it. We have shown that we will defend ourselves against anyone who tries to make us slaves. On worlds throughout the galaxy, alien rulers were watching video footage of the battle. They saw their mighty fleets broken and burning. They saw human ships that fought like nothing they had ever encountered. They began to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. Now, humanity is offering the same choice to you that you offered to us, Choi said, her voice getting harder. Submit to our protection, or face the consequences. You have exactly 72 hours to decide. She turned off the communication system and looked around her bridge. Her crew members were watching her with respect and pride. They had followed her into an impossible battle against overwhelming odds, and they had won. Far away, on the homeworlds of dozens of alien species, leaders were holding emergency meetings. The footage from the battle showed them something terrifying. Humans were not the weak, primitive creatures they had thought. They were something much more dangerous. They were a species that would rather die fighting than live as slaves. They were creatures who got stronger when they were threatened. They were beings who could turn disadvantage into victory and make the impossible happen through pure determination. The galaxy would never be the same again. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun, ridden in fire, across the stars, and paid for with the blood of heroes who had refused to surrender. Earth was safe, and the universe had learned to respect the power of human resolve.